Hey guys, Kyo here, and this time, as you can see by that title, this is a bit different. I've never really done one of these. I've done them on Instagram, but not YouTube, so it's gonna be similar. I'm just gonna ask questions, he's gonna answer them. But yeah, do you want to introduce yourself as a special guest?
What is up? I'm Dicehead. I've been on Kira's channel before, and that was a really enjoyable video to make. I'm looking forward to this one. I remember actually seeing your Instagram posts and thought they were really dope. They were really well edited and all that. So looking forward to hearing what you got for me today.
Alright, so I'm really just gonna ask him some questions, pretty simple questions. And then I incorporated some of the questions you guys asked into the list, so make it more interactive and stuff. And then if he answers in a certain way, I may or may not ask a different question. Do you want to get right into the first question, or?
Yeah. Already?
Alright, so what was the thing that got you into anime and manga? Was it a friend, or how did that work?
So there was three official starts. Honestly, I've mentioned all these on different occasions because I don't remember which one really came first. I know anime was either One Punch Man or Dragon Ball. I watched both of them around the same time. I don't remember which one was first and which one was second. I just remember really liking both of them. Manga was because actually of Gundams. So there's the Gunpla building figure kits where they're you snip out them from the frames and you put them together. And I remember at the time I was just in a shop and thought they looked really cool. And my brother, who was already into anime and all that, told me about, this is from this comic here. He pulled up a manga, obviously. I thought it was a comic at the time, so I bought that, and that was my first manga. Gundam, Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, Endless Waltz, which I actually have a video coming on this week on how to get into Gundam. Depending on when this goes up, it might already be up or coming Wednesday, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because Gundam, I think my only experience with it is one of the games. Completely forgot which. I've heard it's one of the series like Fate that's harder to get into because of the whole order and stuff.
It's actually really simple. There's two main ways to get into it. There's just two different timelines you can go with. And one of them you don't have to watch any material in order. You can just pick and choose. And the other one, there's a couple series you gotta watch in order. So I hope I broke it down pretty easily in this video, and I'm hoping just to get people into Gundam, honestly, because it's a really cool franchise, and it's as much as it's the most iconic mecha anime / manga, nobody's into it, which is really crazy to me.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to mecha anime, more people talk about Code Geass than Gundam and stuff like that.
Yeah, as much as even though the RX-78 is the symbol of mecha in a lot of ways, that Gundam head with the red kind of triangle stop sign thing in the middle of it, that I'm sure everybody's seen that. When they think of mechs in anime, they usually think of that. It's on a ton of shirts and all that, but most of the people just really haven't seen Gundam, so I think it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I plan to get into it eventually. It's just, I've heard there's a lot of different versions, not versions, but different serializations, I guess. So I don't plan on getting into it soon, mainly for that.
Yeah.
Anyways, what was the first anime or manga you found that was really amazing or anything like that?
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of a strange. I've always had this weird thing of when I read anime or read manga rather, and watch anime. It's always, I can never really tell. I've never started something and be wow, this is it. This is the best thing I've ever seen. There's definitely a couple series where the second I started them, I was gripped from beginning to end. Goodnight Poon Poon. I know you're not the biggest fan of Monster. I haven't finished Monster, but I've read the little bits that I've read of it. I honestly couldn't put it down. I thought it was really captivating. So there's many things that I've read where I thought they were just really amazing, but there's nothing I've honestly seen where I was wow, this is it. This is the peak of what I'll ever see. There's no series that I've really fallen in love with from the first chapter either, honestly, because usually it does take a little while for me to warm up to a series. Maybe my favorite series is Bakuman, but even then.
So there was no really a series that the first anime or manga that you read, they're you know what, this is actually really good or something like that?
The first one that I watched being One Punch Man and Dragon Ball, those two I really thought were cool. But obviously it's your first anime, so usually any anime fan will tell you that their first they were blown away by because it's just so different to what they had seen. And I was a big superhero fan before that, so of course getting into One Punch Man was the dream for me, because it was everything I've seen with superheroes times 11, because of the crazy fights and basically just the anime pizzazz that was added to the whole thing. So
that's pretty interesting. To get into I guess the opposite of this, what was the first anime or manga that you generally disliked?
So honestly, I had this question come from the Q&A that I did for 1K subs, and I'm not like I don't really have a series that I'm like, man, I hate this series with a burning passion. I'll joke about hating series, like I'll joke about Demon Slayer a lot being one of my least favorite series. I'll joke about the movie Your Name, hating that so much just because I found it kind of boring. But even though it's like I don't genuinely dislike them, I would still sit down and watch them if a friend was like, hey, let's watch this. The only series I ever disliked enough to like drop and make sure I was never picking up again was Devilman Grimoire, which was like a retelling of the original Devilman series by Go Nagai, and it was meant to be kind of like a soft new introduction to it. It was meant to kind of be like a more hit version of that original Devilman series, but honestly, it was just that original Devilman series with more ecchi and less substance and trying to be needlessly edgy. So I didn't really like that at all. It was also like something I didn't expect to be ecchi, and I was still kind of new to anime and manga, so I was like, what is this? This is weird. So that I dropped with kind of a disdain, but besides that, I've really been pretty neutral on those series, besides joking around with the fan base and, picking on Hunter x Hunter as a series just because I think it has a lot of flaws that people will point out, but still, I generally am okay or just like those series.
Yeah, because really the only series I like will generally dislike besides Monster, because even Monster I'll accept that it's good, is mainly just Boruto, especially the manga.
Yeah.
It was just way too.
I mean, Naruto I actually didn't like a lot. Now that you mentioned Boruto, I've dropped Naruto 6 times now, actually. I just can't get into it, but even that's one of those cases where I'm like, it's just not for me. I mean, it's one of the most popular anime. It's obviously got something going for it, but it's just not my cup of tea, you know?
I guess a lot of people do like it because I still think it's a good series. I think just a lot of other people who have like number one or something, it's mainly nostalgia, or they just really like the themes that it tackles. Because
Dragon Ball's honestly really high in my top series just because it's really nostalgic for me. I love Dragon Ball. Original Dragon Ball, though, I think there is a good argument that it should be high up because that's a really great series.
yeah, I can agree with that. Most of the series, they're great. They're in the grades for a reason and all that.
Yeah.
As for something more current though, what are you like reading or watching right now? Like what kind of manga or anime?
This is kind of weird, but I have like a cycle of how I do things. It started like 2 or 3 years ago, and honestly, I don't do it on purpose, but it just keeps happening. So what always happens is, like, I'll read and watch a ton of anime and manga from like April of one year to like February, March of the next year, and then I'll just, once like summer hits, just switch to comics completely and utterly. It's really weird. Don't ask me why it happens. So I'm kind of in that phase right now. It's obviously like middle, end of May right now. So I'm like fully into that phase. So I'm not actually reading any manga right now, technically. I have stuff like on hold, like a lot of the Osamu Tezuka series, and Monster is actually another series on hold right now. But as for comics, I'm reading Invincible. Is a big obvious one. I have a huge video on that coming very soon, and I'm also reading the Ankle, Black Hammer, Batman Dark Victory, just a bunch of different comic storylines I've been picking up and having some fun with. V for Vendetta, which I have a video coming on very soon, but I'm actually not reading directly any anime and manga right now.
I'm gonna be honest, I've never heard someone have that type of cycle. Like I've seen people go like I'll watch one manga, read one manga, then go one anime or something like that. But I've never seen like certain times of the year have different effects
really
on it.
Weird. I don't know why it happens. It's probably something to do with the weather. Maybe I just have like a nostalgic thing. Because of reading comics over the summer since I was a kid, that was like always the time that I had to do it back when I was younger. Because of being in elementary school, I couldn't really read it during the week, so I would go to the comic store when I was a kid during the summer and kind of pick it up then. So maybe it's something to do with that. So I just kind of associate that with, oh, let's read a comic now. It usually will start with something like I just see a YouTube video on a comic I think is really interesting, pick it up and read it, and then go into a comic binge for a couple months. So I don't know why it happens. It's really weird, but I kind of like it, honestly. It's like nice and refreshing because by the time I go back to manga and by the time I come around to comics, I'm really excited to get into both of them.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense because you can like get burnt out from anime or manga. What was the last manga or anime that you like read or watched, by the way? Like lately.
Look, 1 second, let me look. I have, what was it? So Red to Completion was Goodnight Poon Poon, and then just Red, like generally Red, was Message to Adolf by Osamu Tezuka.
I've heard of both of those. I only read Poom Poom though, so I can't really talk about Message to Adolf.
Mm.
I just know it has Nazis in it, so
Yes, to an extent. It's not about directly World War II like you would think. It's more of a story about the time period than anything. Still a really great story though. I definitely recommend it.
I just had the assumption it was just about World War II. I'm not gonna lie.
It is about World War II, yeah. Hitler is in it, but it's not directly about Hitler. It's actually about different people named Adolf during the war and the different paths they take. Because Adolf actually, obviously now many people don't name their kids that in Germany, but it's a pretty common name. So they have different Adolfs. Adolf's one who's Jewish, one who ends up going into the Hitler Youth and getting radicalized by the Nazis. Adolf Hitler and a reporter named Adolf, and it's just tracking their different paths throughout the war and kind of how they split up from each other. How Jewish Adolf gets kind of alienated from his friend because he gets radicalized by the Hitler Youth. It's a really weird story in a lot of ways. It's nothing like what you're expecting. There's not a ton of action, but it's really, really good. It's honestly like I put it up there with some of Tezuka's best work, if not his single best work. You know.
I didn't ask. That sounds pretty interesting though. Like, as when it comes to at least the concept, I don't think I've come up with something similar to that or seen something similar to that. Just because of the concept, I might pick it up soon. I'm not gonna lie.
It's hard to execute. I'm not gonna lie, because the problem with that is you're focusing on four different characters at once. So if the reader hates one of those characters, they're just gonna drop it. You know, they're gonna get bored every time you get to that character.
Yeah, because if the character isn't good, people are just gonna like want to drop it or pick or just not read it when they get to that character.
Yeah.
What is your favorite like genre in anime or manga?
I guess I wouldn't. You know, I don't want to say shonen or action because shonen's a demographic, seinen's a demographic. Action, I don't even think it is action because like I love action, but a lot of action series I kind of hate when I read. So I'm gonna go with fantasy or science fiction because science fiction and fantasy are both like very strong things that I've always kind of like. If it has sci-fi elements to it that are pretty out there, I'm usually gonna dig that, and also anything with a good amount of world building I'll usually dig. So I guess sci-fi fantasy would be the appropriate answer to that.
Honestly, I was anticipating something like psychological, since a lot of the series I've seen you talk about, like Monster and Poon Poon, are like pretty psychological series.
Psychological is also really good, but I feel like it can get old fast, you know? Like Death Note got pretty old for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like it can be pretty draining. What's your like favorite manga from those genres, like fantasy and sci-fi and all that?
I don't know, it's pretty broad. I mean, fantasy, Berserk is a great one that comes to mind. Rest in peace, Kentaro Miura. That's a very big fantasy manga that comes to mind. Science fiction, I don't know if I've read anything that's like directly quantified to sci-fi. Just a lot of science fiction elements in a lot of manga that you probably don't even realize when you're reading it. Like especially older manga. I guess a direct sci-fi manga would be Captain Harlock, but there's a lot of manga where you don't realize it when you're reading it, but there's things that would be like in a Star Wars movie, stuff like that it's more sci-fi than you really expect it to be.
Yeah, I think when it like first of all, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of sci-fi is like Ghost in the Shell, which I haven't even completely watched. I've only watched the movie, and even then, not a lot of
Of
people
course,
see.
another one that comes to mind there.
Yeah, when it comes to, that's basically like the only thing that comes to mind when I think of like how a sci-fi world really is. Cause yeah, some series have sci-fi aspects, but they're not really like
I
focused
just
on
love science
sci-fi.
fiction in general, honestly. It's another thing that I really grew up with. So, again, bias is really showing here.
Alright, so this next question is gonna be pretty similar to like one of the first ones. What's like the most overrated or underrated series in your opinion, and why? When it comes to anime, manga, and all that.
See, this one's always really hard to balance because, like, things get over and underrated for periods of time. So, what's, like, the most overrated series, like, 6 months, a year ago, would be Demon Slayer, because that was getting so overhyped. But now everybody's, like, hating on Demon Slayer, so I'd even go as far as saying it's underrated. So, things really come and go in cycles. The only series that consistently being overrated, and it pains me to say this because One Piece is one of my favorite series, but One Piece gets overrated a lot because the fan base likes to hype it up just a little bit too much, to the point where they're saying it's a 10. I love One Piece, but it's not a 10. It's like an 8 to 9. But that's like small to me. That's like you're bumping up a point because you really like the series. The series that I think is consistently overrated is Hunter x Hunter. I really am not a huge Hunter x Hunter fan. I still do like it. I think it's like a 7 out of 10. I don't hate Hunter x Hunter, but like it has a ton of flaws. I feel like too many people pretend it's a masterpiece. I don't feel it's a masterpiece, and I think like a lot of just blatant errors with the series that yes you can chalk up to Togashi's conditions when writing the series, but sometimes you just gotta realize like this series isn't a masterpiece and it's still really good, you know?
Yeah, especially for me, which personally, like one of my favorite things in any medium is like well done pacing. Like when I was
Yes,
reading,
the anime is
when I,
terribly paced, of course.
like I don't even think for the most part. I think it's mainly when they got to Chimera that it just like got super slow, and like they spent like a whole episode or two when they were going up the stairs. I'm pretty sure when they met like Yuppie or something. Like
Oh yeah,
I struggled.
Chimera Ranch was like, I've talked to so many people who are like a little less into anime and manga, like friends from school and stuff, who they're like, they like it, but they're not like, they wouldn't call themselves an anime fan, you know?
Yeah.
And they'll say that they dropped it at Chimera Ant Arc, because to the people who haven't heard about the hype behind it, and to the people who like aren't anime savvy enough maybe to know, I don't, that's a terrible term, but aren't like, haven't watched enough anime to know that sometimes you gotta get through this to get to the good stuff, they're gonna drop it. It's really badly paced.
Yeah, that's why the main reason why if I ever go back to Hunter x Hunter, it's gonna be the manga. Even though like the manga, to say in a better term, is inconsistent when it comes to like the art, especially on some other drawings. It's just I doubt the pacing can be worse than in the anime. I'm gonna be honest.
As much as the manga has its own slew of problems, I feel like they're easier to get used to, because pacing your board, art, like, you grow to appreciate a lot of art. I'm sure everybody who's listening to this, and I'm sure you have had certain albums by maybe artists where you're like, I don't really love this at first, or maybe certain songs by that artist, but the more you listen to it, it kind of grows on you. It really is the same with manga art in a lot of ways, where at first you'll be like, I don't love this art, but by the end it will grow on you. The Hunter x Hunter manga art, as inconsistent, you're right, as it is, it did grow on me.
Yeah, because I saw someone say, like, it looks more humanly drawn, right? Because, you know, it has, like, the sketches and all that. So I guess you could, like, I guess that's a different style of drawing, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. I definitely, like, this is going to be weird, but I find it more akin to, like, Jujutsu Kaisen's art. But, like, I find Jujutsu Kaisen had better art, in my opinion, for the most part.
Or like Jujutsu Kaisen is like a more cleanly done Hunter x Hunter art style. Chainsaw Man's also a line you can draw, but I feel like Hunter x Hunter, Togashi doesn't use those scratchy lines with the G pen because I don't feel like it's on purpose. I feel like it's because he's ill right now when he's writing it. Because in Yu Yu Hakusho, yes, he uses them, but definitely not as much. When he's doing general character outlines, it looks like a normal shonen.
I don't even think like the scratchy part is a problem, right? Because Chainsaw Man has actually good art. It's just that they have the scratchy lines to make it look more gritty and stuff like that. I think it's just a case of him being ill, so he can't put as much time or at least quality time into the series.
Yeah,
especially
for sure.
since it's been like 900 days since we got a chapter.
That's crazy. Wow, I'm not caught up with the manga. But yeah, that must be painful for big Hunter x Hunter fans.
Yeah, they gotta keep analyzing if they want to keep talking about it. Anywho, though, this is gonna be more on your channel though. There are one or two more questions that like talk about your channel. What would you say is like your favorite and least favorite video that you've put out?
So I have two technically favorites. So the Joker video, which is like my channel trailer right now, that's one of my favorites because I really like the points I made. And the newest comics versus manga video, which honestly, I don't want to count yet because as much as, I enjoyed it, it was honestly because it's the first video done by my editor. So that's like, of course I'm really going to like it because the quality's really stepped up. As far as the video I'm most proud of though, it was the Batman video, who Mr. Energy was featured on it. And that video I really liked because, first of all, I had a feature on it, which was always fun, but Energy sent me the files, and his was, like, fully edited. If you watch the video, Energy's clip in it is completely untouched by me. That's just what he did, and it was, like, insane. I think I remember him saying he got his computer back that day, and he was, like, excited to do something like that. But I know, just, like, pretty, pretty like crazy when I first saw it. I wasn't expecting that. I was just expecting honestly like an audio clip. He said he was using Facecam, but I didn't really know. I was just gonna edit whatever over to kind of make it better. But when he said that, I was like, wow, I gotta step up the rest of this video. So I did that, and that I was like, it was the first video where I really tried to step it up like that. So I'm really proud of that video. I don't know if it's like my best though. Again, that's really subjective. That's one of my favorites, though, for sure.
Yeah, I guess when it comes to like favorite videos, it's definitely gonna change between like if you made the video and who didn't. A lot of the time, and also like what you
Yeah.
prefer. So like for me, for example, I'll probably enjoy more like a comic recommendation or something about anime and manga, and some other people might like more like Q&As and stuff like that.
And honestly, my favorite video to make was the Essential Manga tier list with Augie and Max, because that was just super fun recording it.
Yeah, especially some scenes that happened that were pretty funny if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So what would you like out of nowhere, right? But what would you say is your least favorite video you've made?
Least favorite? I mean, that's also kind of hard. I mean, maybe because for April Fool's I did a Frog and Toad character analysis, and that I honestly had a lot of fun making. I thought it was a really funny video. It obviously didn't do well because it's about Frog and Toad. So that's probably not my least favorite, but it is definitely low down on the list. I think my least favorite is probably the video I made right before that, which was a video of manga covers. And honestly, there were just a ton of problems when I was recording it. First of all, I was sick when I was doing it, so I couldn't really put my all into it. And there were audio issues at the end, and honestly, I edited on a really bad program, so it was really hard to get them out, and I ended up just having to, like, put them in and put a little note saying, like, these wouldn't be fixed at all. So that was probably my least favorite, and I was also mad because it did pretty well, because it was, pretty interesting topic, something a lot of people want to see, so I was like, why did this video have to do well since I didn't really love it? But again, even that, it's like every video on my channel, I think, brings something new to the table. That's why I wanted to upload it first, was because I want it to be more of a journey than anything. I didn't want every video to be perfect. I wanted every video to be unique and bring something new to the table. So I wouldn't say it's my least favorite, but it's definitely, maybe in my opinion, the weakest.
I mean, I can see that. I gotta see the Frog and Toad video because I see it every time and it brings me in, especially since it's Frog and Toad. But yeah, I definitely feel like your videos feel more personal in a way, I guess, if that makes sense. So I can see what you mean, like the whole journey thing.
Pretty cool with it, yeah.
I almost accidentally played a video there because I was trying to find the Frog and Toad video. That could have been weird. Anyways, what would you prefer, seinen or shonen or seinen? I don't know how people say it nowadays.
I mean, on average, I think I tend to prefer a seinen series, just because I feel like they usually have a little more to them in terms of depth. I'm not saying shonen doesn't have more to them, because that often is an association that gets made. I just think, on average, a lot of the seinen I read, Vinland Saga, Poon Poon, Flowers of Evil, Berserk, I feel like there's a lot more substance there for me to, analyze. And that's something I really like doing, as much as, yes, I need to go touch grass. I love analyzing things. I love analyzing, the music I listen to, the series I watch, the movies I read. So those definitely, but honestly, I've read a lot of shonen I really love too, so these are equal to me. If it's in a, head-to-head comparison, I'm just gonna go with the series that's better, though, because the genres really don't matter at the end of the day, it's just the series itself.
Yeah, personally, a lot of the time, I think it's just because, I personally find shonen series more enjoyable, but at the same time, I will admit, seinen or seinen, they have more, depth in their series, and also, more of them are more, depressing. Maybe not depressing, but they're not more focused on, making you happy or making you laugh, right? They're more thought-provoking. And it's you can pick a random seinen and be able to analyze it more than a random shonen, if you know what I'm talking about. But most of the time, I'll pick shonen just because I find them more enjoyable, though.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was saying. It doesn't matter what the genre is. I mean, on average, of course, people are going to have preference, but it's always just going to be, which series you like better, which series is better. Because it's like putting Berserk and One Piece next to each other. They're both amazing series. It's up to you in that regard.
Yeah, especially since there's some series that I don't want to say they break the barrier in what demographic they are, but you read them and you really wouldn't know if they're a seinen or a shonen. For example, just the other day I figured out Love Is War is a seinen. I always thought it was like a shoujo or a shonen.
Yeah.
So that surprised me when it was a seinen because it feels like some type of shonen or shoujo series. Kingdom 2, it has the shonen feel, but it is more, I would say it's more seinen because of the fact that it has like the blood and the gore and all that, which you can't really have on shonen unless you're like Chainsaw Man.
The reason that I honestly don't like the distinction a lot of the time too is because these are genres. They've been associated with genres, but it all literally seinen and shonen depends on which magazine it's published in, nothing else.
Yeah.
But like that's why should we judge series based off which magazine they're published in? That's usually just chance. Like the Attack on Titan author had to publish his series somewhere else because the original magazine, Shonen Jump, didn't want it. Like it's all comes down to where they could get it published. So sometimes, like I'm sure the Love Is War author would have loved to put Kaguya-sama in a shonen, rom-com magazine if they could have gotten it in there. So sometimes it just doesn't matter whatsoever as much as people really chalk it up to be.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the argument people say because a lot of shonen are like action adventure, so people try to like make that to be the same thing. But it really just is a demographic, so you can't really say it's a genre. I just want to say like a lot of seinen. I want to say like shonen are like generally have like action adventure, fantasy, and then seinen are more like psychological thriller most of the time. Right, there are exceptions, but that's like in general. If you told me that you're gonna be a seinen, it's generally what I'm gonna imagine it's gonna be. It's like what I come prepared to read. You want to go to the next question, or you want to keep talking about seinen or something?
No, that's cool.
All right.
Yeah, next question.
What made you want to start like a YouTube account and all that?
So I mean, it's kind of weird, but like I've always just talked about this stuff to friends and to myself even when I would be skating or whatever. I'd always like kind of think to myself, but always do it in this weird format where it was almost like I was talking to an audience or like doing a formatted video, and I would kind of just think of series as I was reading them like that too. So one night, I was talking to somebody and kind of had a very similar conversation to that, and I was like, like I really enjoy talking about this stuff. So over January, I uploaded some videos in September just for fun, just like to see what it was like because I had been watching it for so long. But in January, I was like, let's just give it a try and do it. If it doesn't work out, what's to lose? If it does work out, that's really cool. And so I kind of just started uploading every day, trying to, because I realized that I'm not a great editor. I don't really bring anything super special to the table besides my takes and things of how I look at things. So I figured let's just try and daily upload and get really good at making videos, and hopefully, my goal was to daily upload for the entire year. That didn't exactly pan out. Now that I'm changing things up a little bit, but either way, I have gotten much better at making videos, much better at talking off the bat, which was really my goal of daily uploading. So that's just kind of what brought me to today, and honestly, it's been really rewarding, outside of course, what everybody looks at is the subscribers, the views, the money, and yeah, that's all really cool to get, but the coolest part is really just interfacing with people. For an example, I've made videos with people who I used to watch as like just a consumer of their content, and now I'm like talking to them on the daily, So it's stuff like that, and making new friends in the communities that is just really cool, and honestly the best part of this.
Yeah, I can see what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about with the whole. I don't want to say I can see what you're talking about with the whole talking to yourself, but I can see what you're talking about when you say the best part is talking to people and stuff.
No, wait, let me clarify that. I wasn't talking to myself. I'd like think to myself about the series as I was reading them, trying to like process. Listen, I know I sound crazy.
So you're saying like you were trying to analyze, you were talking to yourself as you were reading the series.
Yeah, like I say I'm reading like Berserk, I'd be kind of going through like, oh, this panel kind of shows Guts' emotion here, and this panel is meant to parallel this. Like I'd kind of be drawing lines in my head, but it wouldn't just be me thinking that, it'd almost be like in a presented format. It's weird, it's just the way I think in a lot of scenarios. Maybe it's because I grew up watching too much YouTube, but that kind of almost prepared me, maybe, I don't know.
Oh, so you're saying like you used to like analyze a series something like that as you would read it?
Yeah, as I'd read it, and honestly, like later, say I just got done, maybe like reading a volume of Berserk, and then went out skating. I like think about it like in like that,
Yeah, I guess I definitely see. I personally don't like enjoy analyzing as much. I still enjoy it. Just depends on like what. Like for example, I really enjoyed when I did the Kira analysis because that was like a character I really like and all that. But I very rarely will like analyze a character as I'm reading. I generally do that like after the fact, or like, watch a video on it. I rarely read and analyze at the same time.
Like my favorite things to analyze are really just parallels, because I feel like maybe I'm just like drawing too many lines to things, but I feel like as I'm reading things, I can like look at panel layouts and kind of draw parallels, like what characters are doing and all that, you know?
Yeah, parallels are really fun to analyze. So always like symbolism sometimes, but I feel like symbolism always a lot of the time gets like very exaggerated. Not exaggerated, like a lot of people are reaching when they say, it's
Yeah.
symbolism, especially Hunter x Hunter fans and Monogatari fans. But that's for another day. I don't want to get into that today. As for the next question though, have you ever lost motivation throughout your like YouTube journey or like Instagram and stuff like that?
Oh, so I mean, have I like had days where I just don't want to make a video? Of course I have. Everybody has. Have I like genuinely lost motivation and not want to do it? No, mainly because of like I mentioned before that just genuinely rewarding aspect to it. Because there's always that like, well, why stop now? I was doing well with it. So even though I'm like on an upload break, that's not even due to the fact that I want to be on an upload break. That's due to things that are happening in my own life. So things like that. So no, I don't think I've ever seriously lost motivation. But of course, I mean, I've had days where I'm like, man, I don't feel like making a video today just because I'm tired, I'm sick, something like that.
Yeah, I can see what you're talking about. There are times where like I just either don't feel like recording or, something along those lines. So yeah, but you've really never had a time where you just weren't motivated or something like that.
I don't really have a major one. I mean, like, I've gone through like a whole week where I'm just like, man, I don't feel like doing anything this week. And all right, I'm like very depressed when I wake up in the morning sometimes because like I hate waking up early. So when I gotta wake up for like school, something like that, I'll usually be like, dang, I just don't want to do anything today. But I mean, like major just losses of like I never want to do this again. No, not really. I've really just enjoyed it and like tried to, even when I'm feeling like not doing it, I tried to kind of think about it straightforward and like well, I'll get come around to it, you know.
Yeah, I guess what you're talking about. I guess you have to do that eventually too, especially when you're like doing
Yeah.
daily. Because I do it like not I try to do like as many as I can a week, but I guess when you do daily,
Like
it's
the big
harder.
thing, the big thing they just mentioned is like trying to think about it logically, because like I mentioned before, even a series is good if somebody likes it. That's the kind of logic I use. Is there must be something good about the series if somebody likes it. It's kind of the same logic I use with YouTube. Is you know, I've been doing it for so long. Why would I quit? I obviously have a passion for it. And if that burns out for like a week, then next week I come around. You know.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. As for the next questions, they're more like questions for people who I guess like are more like want to get into YouTube or they are curious to how a channel works. They're more questions for those people. How long does it generally take to make your videos, right? So like in between the editing, the recording, and all of that.
Um, well, recording, I do unscripted, so the recording doesn't take too long unless I'm doing, like, I really just can't get a segment right. So I'll, like, lightly script a video, kind of record it, and then after that I'll edit it. It depends on the video, of course. I think sometimes I've spent, like, 3 hours-ish on a video for back when I was doing daily consistently. Now I have an editor, things are a little different. So it really doesn't, it fluctuates a lot, but I will say my videos aren't the hardest to make. I mean, like, I'm sure you realize that my videos aren't super heavily edited. Me and a lot of other content creators with very similar styles to me. It's like some content creators have this style, which is really great. People like watching it, but also some content creators do a lot more. They put a lot more into their videos. Mr. Energy, who I mentioned earlier, has that style of just doing a ton for his videos. They come out like movies. But some, I'm definitely on the lower end of editing wise, and I honestly have always seen my videos as more to be listened to than watched.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, especially with people who have like, not, I don't, I mean, I personally don't put that much effort into editing, right? I just put panels that have somewhat to do, mainly because I feel my videos, I feel like more like for a podcast, not like a podcast, I'm talking about, right? They're more for listening. I don't really offer any visual aspect that's too big.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I can see what you're talking about with the whole editing, because I personally take at max an hour, and that's in between like the recording, the downloading, and the uploading and all that.
And then, like you said, for tips for people who are starting out, my biggest tip, it might be a bad tip, but it worked for me, is make videos that you're passionate about. I found that, especially with my style of videos, the videos that I'm not looking forward to making, the videos I made because it maybe the topic was doing well at the time, did a lot worse than the videos I was passionate about. And it's just because your passion will come across when you're making the video. People will be able to tell that you're really into a subject. An example right now, just literally looking at my YouTube studio right now, I can see that the comics versus manga videos, or comparing comics and manga, which were some of my favorite videos to make, they didn't perform well when they first came out. But now, those are the videos that are dominating my channel while not, uploading currently. One of them is, like, doing super well in the algorithm right now and everything. So, like, I really enjoyed making those videos, and it showed in the long run that I just enjoyed making those comparison videos, enjoyed talking about comics and manga together, as they're two of my favorite mediums. So I think that's the best advice you can get, is make a video you would want to watch, make a video that you're passionate about, and 9 times out of 10, that video will come out much better than making the video on the Demon Slayer movie, because the Demon Slayer movie just came out. Now make the video, instead, if you didn't like the Demon Slayer movie, don't make the video on the Demon Slayer movie, make the video on that weird manga that you just read that you found on Instagram that you thought was really cool,
Yeah, it's always like the series, not series. I was gonna say, like, it's always the videos. You can always feel when someone has a passion for something, right? Especially in like their voice.
Exactly. That's why, honestly, Tekking101, he's a One Piece YouTuber. His channel, it's probably done so good because his passion comes across. You can always tell that that man is just so excited to talk about One Piece every time he turns on the camera, and I think that's probably a good reason as why he's done so well on YouTube.
Yeah, especially since like his videos are like only One Piece, so he has to come up with so many ideas. You can really tell he's like really into One Piece and just enjoys making the videos. It comes across very easily.
Comes across in every single video, and that's why Tekking is one of my favorite people to watch. Is just because you really feel like you just feel like you're watching somebody nerd about One Piece, and it's just one of the coolest feelings,
Yeah, it feels like sometimes it feels like you're talking to him, but yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
As for the last 2 questions, is there like, do you want to tell the people about your journey to 1K? Congrats, by the way. But yeah, I know I'm late, but still. Anything you want to like tell the people on your whole journey and stuff?
I mean, nothing major. I feel like I'm just grateful to the people that have been there for the entire journey. The people that were there with me to my start, that unfortunately maybe aren't with me today, maybe don't talk to me as much. And honestly, just like everything that's come along with this, it's really crazy. Looking at my life, one of my goals when I started was to be able to look at my life in a couple months and say that it's very different from what it was a couple months ago. And it's like kind of happened. I mean, I know 1K, as much as, yes, it's a huge milestone to me, in perspective, people might say that's not a huge number, but it really is to me. This is something that has definitely impacted me, so thank you so much, all of you, for 1K.
As for I really can't really mention anything on that. It's pretty, I don't know, it's great to hear. Is there anything you want to tell the people for the end?
If you're thinking about starting a channel, just do it. It's best advice I can give. Just start making videos, and you'll probably end up if you enjoy doing it, you'll probably end up in a pretty good place, honestly.
Alright, so that's pretty long video. Now I look at it, I wasn't paying attention. That flew by fast. That's basically for the video. I don't really have anything I want to mention. If you like the video, let me know down below. Also, to respond to Dice's thing, if you want to like also start a channel, I think you can either DM me or find Dice's Discord, which should be somewhere on his channel, which I'll link to the description. But we personally respond to most stuff. At least I think Dice does. I'm not sure.
Of course, I respond to everything. If I don't respond, just spam message me, because I probably forgot, because I'm an idiot. But yeah, I love responding to stuff.
Yeah, that's personally one of my favorite things about this. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, let me know what you thought down below. Remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, peace.